Mystery font. Good gray array. Liaised, the mind may be aim. The mind may be same, the mind may be sane. Why all mind need not be prey. I play, you be play, not prey to predator today. Please be play. Imagination may be game to play. Today, if you are game. Radio Science Brain. Do you remember 2017? Do you remember when we didn't know if he would hold press conferences and we asked him about many of our deep pits of uneasiness opening with every word and gesture and failure of his? And he said, well, I won. We are in an abusive relationship. We're in an abusive relationship with the falsehood. We're in an abusive relationship with Kremlins. We have Kremlins. Wise to face fact. We have Kremlins. And we're dealing with sabotage. No question, we're dealing with sabotage. The weed of crime bears bitter fruit. Crime does not pay. Who knows what evil lurks in the mind of mendacity? Who knows what shadow grows? Is it the shadow of the nose? Or is that a square 5 o'clock shadow that grows? Who knows what evil lurks in the heart of a mind of mendacity? We have Nazis, we have Kremlins. We have to perform basic mental health care and hygiene as a community, because hatred is trying to rob us of the information that DEI is humanity. Ku Klux Kremlins are trying to rob us of the information that DEI is humanity. this is not a good state of affairs. DEI is humanity. We are currently under attack from someone who works to normalize killing empathy. A normalization of killing empathy. What does that look like? It looks like malice. It looks like someone enjoying devastating other people. It's horrific. It looks like we have an obvious job to do. It looks like there's basic hygiene that happens when we realize someone has found their way into our private parts. When someone announces they can grab us by the privates. When someone announces they can grab us by the privates, we say no. And if need be, we physically stop them because self-defense is actually a thing. While toothless Democrats may falter from being literal guardians of democracy, self-defense is a thing. And the presidency is more important than the president. And the presidency is absolutely more important than the president if the president is a known bad faith actor. If we knew, for instance, that Trump used COVID as a bioweapon, if we knew that Trump and M used COVID as a bioweapon, if we were all cognizant of the fact that Trump was told on January 28th, 2020, that COVID would be the biggest security threat of his presidency, that it was communicable by breath, potentially via other methods, that it was far more deadly than the flu, and that it was emerging from China. He hid the truth. And that was with the collaboration and advice of the one and only Stephen Miller. the one and only Stephen Miller. And there's only one M. Stephen Miller at Stephen M on Twitter, whose slogan is Demolish DEI. But for our purposes, who can be known globally as M. That Trump and M used COVID as a bioweapon. Stephen Miller advised Trump to wait at least 6 weeks. Without telling people that he was dosing them with a biological weapon. From January 28th until actual advisement about the deadly nature of COVID happened was nearly, if not more than several weeks. 6 at least. 6 weeks of dosing people with a deadly virus. 6 weeks. Six weeks. Trump and Stephen Miller dosed us with COVID for at least 6 weeks. That is how 1.2 million people died from COVID in the United States. Trump and Stephen Miller dosed people with COVID as a bioweapon. Trump and Stephen Miller are culpable for 1.2 million murders and likely 50 times that attempted murders. When you invite people into a massive hall that you have laced with poison or that you know is contaminated, say like public when a pandemic hits, say like celebrate Easter, say like, oh, it's not a big deal, we only have a case or so and we've got it under control, it'll be gone in no time. When you know, when Rumpelstiltskin knew, he didn't mean to cause a panic. He drew the iceberg to Titanic. He didn't mean to cause a panic. He didn't mean to cause a panic, but 6 the feet of separation. He didn't mean to cause a panic. he meant to draw iceberg, Titanic. He didn't mean to cause a panic. He didn't mean to cause a panic. He didn't mean to cause a panic. Yet. He didn't mean to cause a panic. Yet. He didn't mean to cause a panic. Yet. 6 the feet of separation. Six the feet of separation. Six the feet of separation. 6 degrees of separation. 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. 6 the feet of separation. He didn't mean to cause a panic. He didn't mean to cause a panic. Prepared people can plan and plan quick. He didn't mean to cause a panic. He meant to draw iceberg Titanic. He didn't mean to cause a panic, yet 6 the feet of separation. 6 the feet of separation. 6 the feet of separation. The Nazis lost in World War II. As Allied radar read their crew, and what we knew was probably due. The great American wall builder said, I know what to do. I can use you. Just let it through. He didn't mean to cause a panic. He didn't mean to cause a panic. Yet 6 the feet of separation. 6 the feet of separation. 6 a stump. I don't perceive a guardian to guard a tree and leave a stump. That's not what I call guardian. You embody a jewel trump. You're a real card, your father's son. You're a real card, your father's suit. You're a real card, your father's loot. It's not the thing you swear upon. It's what your heart was. It's what your heart was. It's what your heart will not abandon. It's what your heart won't abandon. It's what your heart won't abandon. It's how your word becomes action. It's that your words an honest one. How long must you menace us? You do doubt the new Colossus. You're a real card. You're a real card. You're a real card. 6 feet of separation. 6 feet of separation. 6 feet of separation. 6 feet of separation. Good gray array liaised. He told us he would keep us in suspense. And he has. And really, suspense is where we have been. Held in a stalemate, not really very much moving forward from the moment of the end of the Civil War. Held in stalemate in lying, deadly bullshit made of Darvo, made of a preemption of the conversation humanity should have when there are marked differences in conscience. That liars who have always wanted slavery and white supremacist patriarchal terror to have coercive, deadly, damnable control over some. We have simply been fiddled with by the worst human beings on the planet. Because people corrupted by cancer spread cancer and kill. And now some of them have quelled their bloodlust and cannibalistic mayhem long enough to plan as Moms for Liberty and as MAGA. And who are they? They are Nazis. They are Ku Klux cucks. They are Nazis. We have Kremlins. We are under attack. Schools are decimated when at war. Women are targeted by bands of rapists when at war. A government ostensibly in democracy is taken via occupation to a place of 150 years previous, when fascism descends and vaunts an idealized, never-existent past of greatness, only meant to solidify terrorism as power. We have Nazis that act like gremlins, Ku Klux cucks colluding with the Kremlin. Don't get their appetite whet, and don't feed them after midnight. We have Kremlins. And they do not need enabling. They need help, and it looks like we need help. We need to be not our only ally. After all, the Allies have fought the axis of evil before. The axis of evil has threatened humanity before. It's not the first time we've been threatened by the Hitler particle. It's sadly not the first time. We recognize exactly who we are dealing with. We recognize the Hitler particle in the statements like the recent memo by Pam Bondi. The recent memo by Pam Bondi that speaks about bringing back a federal death penalty and also clearly opens a door legalizing the murder, the extermination of undocumented peoples who remain in the country. Pam Bondi is working with Donald Trump and M to commit genocide. J.D. Vance and Trump and Stephen Miller, M. You can find him at Stephen M. And we should all at Stephen M. And of course that means also the ridiculous butcher and thug Tom Homan. It means all of the clutch of diseased minds who are essentially, at the end of the day, just a bunch of Nazis. It does mean they're also human beings, and we do not abandon human beings to butcher one another. We do not abandon human beings to not see when they're being Nazis. We don't allow people to swing weapons in the street and declare they're going to destroy a part of our community. We dispatch healthcare. And MAGA is insane. It is a death cult formed to resurge the Confederacy. It is Ku Klux crime. We have Kremlins. We are under attack by Kremlins. How different is 2017 from 2025? Isn't it the looking glass that we smashed through in between? A place where we spoke somewhat metaphorically about threats to democracy and tent poles and assaults on the Constitution, and now are at the place where Donald Trump and Elon Musk are literally chewing through fiber that was grown over hundreds of years. Fabric and knowledge and brain trust and common trust. We are under attack by MAGA. That means Nazis. It means the Ku Klux Klan. There is nothing that points us to any other conclusion other than an illegal, terroristic resurgence of the Confederacy. Who is at the head? Certainly Trump and a billionaire clutch. But it does take people foisting white male supremacy into the spotlight in strange ways again and again and again. Or else it does wither, because white male supremacy didn't earn it. And the whole world knows it. Right, M? The whole world knows by heart that white male supremacy didn't earn it. The falsehood would tell you that there is a reason that is good or just for there to ever have been a structure of white male supremacy. The falsehood will tell you there's a reason for oppression other than evil. Because if you keep doing it, it becomes a plan. We're sentient beings. We're scient minds. So we care. Or if we can't, we might be smart enough to realize that we trust those who have that skill, like others might trust the skills we are stronger in. Or else we can be decimated. It's good to be connected to a diversity of people. It's good to have a diversity of skills. And the obliterating stupidity and criminal intent of the new appointee who said the nonsense about something about there must be competent white men in charge, he said. What a load of Nazi Ku Klux clucking bullshit. America is not a Christian nation, and it will never be a Christian nation. Period. We worked very hard. We worked very hard. We worked for hours and days and weeks. We worked very hard to make sure that our Constitution constituted a United States we wanted to live. And the separation between church and state is what protects religion, is what protects the effect that Christianity can positively have on this nation. It's what allows all kinds of faiths to have positive effect. And we have always stood against the establishment of religion by the government. But people who wish to pervert the word of Christ don't care about that. They are corrupted with lust for wealth and power. And there is one very succinct word for people who have voted for Trump and not turned coat when they realized he was a turncoat. It is the word that follows Trump. Anyone who has donned the falsehood wears it. And so he wears it. Trump is without any ambiguity an antichrist. He is an anti-figure of humanity. He is an anti-humane figure. There is a bandwidth of terror. And Trump prefers to jump up and down on the bandwidth of terror. He is an antichrist. And the entire MAGA movement is an antichrist movement. MAGA is an antichrist movement. And no one knows that better than Stephen Miller. Likely because no one could derive as much joy from it, or more joy. He is, after all, a Pied Piper of death. He is, after all, the Mortar. He is, after all, a character that was first portrayed before he was even born by Peter Lorre in Fritz Lang's M. It's just lucky that he knew to call out his initial. Because, really, Peter Lorre captured him very well. Stephen Miller is the murderer. And Stephen Miller has been steadily unmasking about that. Stephen Miller is likely a cannibal, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Stephen Miller is likely a raper, but Stephen Miller is definitely a rapist, a promulgator of rape culture. And so if you see M, you should at M. Everyone should at Stephen M. Up and at M. Up and at M. Up and at M to tell him that he's wrong about Emma Lazarus and the new Colossus. Up and at M to let him know that the new Colossus was written to raise funds for the pedestal that holds the Statue of Liberty aloft. Up and at M to tell him that his disgusting scapegoating and vile bigotry, his deadly Nazi script, reconstituted again and again from the fingertips of his mind, that it is an unacceptable field of shitty hokum. At M. Up and at M. Up and at M. Devastate the attention of this man with the truth. He is a master hoax builder. He built the 2020 big election lie. He built virtually every massive hoax. He's been filling in the cracks or building the skeleton. And most of the worst and most direct Hitler quote laden speech that's coming out of Trump's mouth comes from M. Up and at M. Up and at M, because we don't take antichrists lightly. Up and at M, because people waving weapons in the street do not get enabled. Up and at M, because it's possible he might see the error of his ways if thousands or millions of people speak out clearly to say that his barbarism is done. How could we swaddle him in gentle care to let him know mental health care awaits him and is not anything to fear? How could we help Stephen M? How could we help him know that interrogating and indeed disassembling all of the bullshit that whiteness has foisted, all of the violence, how could we help him know that that is not a threat to white people? How could we let him know that disassembling white supremacy is good for everyone? How could we let him know that women's human rights are everyone's human rights, that we don't remove protected status from anyone. We don't allow women to be hunted. We don't allow trans people to be hunted. We don't allow the global majority to be hunted. We don't allow immigrants to be hunted. We don't allow the unhoused to be hunted. Unless we are people who just want to not see. Because then Nazis, real, violent, cannibal, murdering Nazis like Stephen Miller, can coax us. They can devastate and demoralize us, all the better with help from Kremlins. But they can demoralize us and destabilize us, and they can escalate. They're trying to remove DEI. Stephen Miller is afraid of DEI because he knows that white people have always needed that extra boost. And so restoring an old running OS of oppressive supremacy, going back to a manifest destiny mindset, the complete insanity of that is a shape that an evil mind would want to bring back, and demonstrably has brought back as far as it has come in this last gasp of white supremacist male patriarchal terror. They will do anything. Stephen Miller would do anything. He's a bad human being, and he needs our help. He needs mental health care assistance stat, because he is one of the deadly, violent Nazis threatening every life on Earth. Up and at him. Defeat his ability to demolish DEI, because DEI is you and I. DEI, after all, is even Stephen Miller. He's already killed well over 1 million people with Donald Trump. Don't forget. Don't forget that the Laken-Riley Act and its massive lie, as if Americans aren't far more likely and more frequently the ones who are committing horrific crimes like the tragedy of the violence against Laken-Riley. A single instance of horror that Stephen Miller has worked to tessellate as if there are thousands, while most vicious murders and rapes are done per capita more by Americans, by citizens, that is, and certainly by white, cis men like Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, which is why Nazis like Nancy Mace scapegoat a non-reality like the vague Archie Bunker imagination of the bosom buddies, because there aren't men mawkishly disguising themselves to peer at women's genitals, unless you mean Matt Gaetz and Donald Trump and those MAGA Ku Klux cucks who are indeed actually people who have confessed to doing so. Donald Trump, who just gets to inspect the pageants because he's the owner of the pageant. He's inspecting. So he gets to go and look at people in skimpy shirts, even young teenage girls. These are terrible human beings, and they need our help, or they're going to kill people. More people, that is. They need our help, and that means we are not cleared to enable them. Helping them and enabling them are virtually the opposite. In both cases, we want them to be safe and breathing, but helping them means getting Stephen Miller out of power and into therapy. It means getting Kevin Roberts prosecuted, and once he is safely behind bars, perhaps for the rest of his life, Kevin Roberts will receive health care, the best on earth. But the fact is, as of this time, Donald Trump, Roger Stone, Kevin Roberts, and Stephen Miller all remain at large. That top story again, Donald Trump, Roger Stone, Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation, and well-known threat maker to American lives. And of course, Stephen Miller, known infamously as M. The murderer. So if you see Stephen, make sure that he has an M on him somewhere. We don't want him to go without being noted. Because Elsie Beckman is warning enough. We don't need to worry about Anita Francisco. We don't need to worry about another Anne Frank. We don't need to worry about another 1.2 or 7.5 million people being murdered by Stephen Miller and Donald Trump and Kevin Roberts and Roger Stone and J.D. Vance and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Clay Higgins, unless we go to sleep, unless we just decide we want to not see the call to action to defend our very existence, our lives and the safety of our moms and daughters and sisters, the safety of all of our siblings. This is a genocidal death cult we are facing. That is what we need to defend ourselves against. A genocidal death cult beginning transgenocide, beginning genocide against brown people and black people in America. It actually has to be stopped now. They have shown full traitorous bad faith. We are under attack. This is what it feels like to be absorbing war without recognizing we have been under siege. We have been and are under siege. It is punishing. It is slow. And we're trying to establish a kind comprehension of this shape. Enough so that as the actual iceberg and not merely its pre-concussion wave barrel into us. But the iceberg is about to hit. We can yet do things to prevent damage. We can yet arrest the Trump regime. And that would be the wisest course of action, to arrest Elon Musk and Doge and the entire Trump regime. They are bad faith actors. They are attacking this country. And anyone who takes this course of action, just like anyone who took the course of action Donald Trump did on January 6th, anyone who takes this course of action is committing seditious treason. This is treason. To demolish the United States that we are supposed to be able to pass on, to demolish this and enslave people in an AI-run reality that doesn't see anybody but white men, is a horror movie come to life. It's torture. What is the real card that Donald Trump personifies? Is it the Trump card? Is it the white card? The answer is yes. He's a real card. He's made from the wood that could have become a little boy, but he's just a real card that is made for conquest. He's not interested in winning a fucking thing. He wants to win across and over corpses. He wants to make people take his Eucharist, which is swallowing the impossible, or swallowing the unredeemable and totally atrocious. And then he performs his miracle of making that rape or public humiliation or that intentional shitting of his pants next to an ingenue at the microphone to assert dominance. He makes people wear the defilement and tolerate or vaunt and even celebrate him. He is a terrorist. He uses terror and violence and lies. He doesn't pay his bills, and that's how his victims can't afford to sue him. And the extraction now going on by Donald Trump through his Nazi proxy is the same shape, one of the same basic shapes he's been doing for decades. He is gutting and sucking. We literally only have to stop them. We literally only have to stop them. When are the cowards in Washington who do stand against MAGA, when are we going to see Elon Musk physically pulled from what he is doing, along with his Hardy Groiper boys? When are we going to see them arrested and held? When are we going to see them held so that they cannot do one fucking thing to hurt us? When are we going to see them arrested? I guess maybe the question becomes, when are we arresting them? And maybe the question becomes, when are we arresting the entire Trump regime? When does the Secret Service take its oath to protect the presidency seriously? I did not stutter.